Awesome.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library in Massachusetts. So glad to see so many people from Massachusetts and New Hampshire here tonight. This is our Haunted Experiences series with host Jeff DePaoli. He's the host of That Halloween podcast, so he knows what he speaks of. And tonight we are welcoming Mike Perron from Canobie Lake Screeemfest, right in our backyard. So if you haven't been to Canobie Lake lately, go. Just really quick, I want to thank the Friends of the Ashland Public Library for supporting this program, as well as Jeff and Mike, who let us share this with other libraries. So when libraries work together, we make magic, not like scream magic, just regular magic. So if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. Jeff will be moderating them after his chat with Mike. In the meantime, have a great time. I will be back in about an hour.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mina. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in wherever you are. Mike, thanks for being here. Mike, the newly named producer of
That's right.
SCREEEMFest at Canobie Lake Park. I should say you've been there a long time. It's just the title is a change for you. Yes?
Yes, yes. I'm probably top of the food chain as far as ScreeemFest goes, so now I just get title changes.
Excellent. So much fun. Well, we're excited to jump into that. We're going to show a quick little teaser video here first, just in case folks are not familiar with ScreeemFest. Let's start with that.
Canobie Lake Park SCREEEMFest. For dates, hours, and information about corporate and group discounts, visit canobie.com.
Ooh, teaser video. So, Mike, tell me a little bit about the history of ScreeemFest. Of course, I'm going to assume, or maybe I shouldn't assume this, but folks, Canobie Lake Park is an amusement park that's open during the spring summer seasons in Salem, New Hampshire. So it is a family amusement park first and foremost. But ScreeemFest came along and brought in a nice little fun, scary Halloween activity for folks to enjoy. So can you just start a little bit with the history of ScreeemFest?
Sure. So in 2008, we were actually approached by Spooky World because they needed a place to set up shop, and we were interested in Halloween, so we jumped at it, and it happened very quickly and very successfully, and it was a very cool thing to add to the park's repertoire. In 2009, we were like, we could probably do this. We saw it done on site, and now we know what it takes. So we launched Canobie Lake Park SCREEEMFest in 2009, and it's been growing ever since. At this point, we started with 3 haunted houses, and now we have 5. And our staff, we have 275 dedicated ScreeemFest staff, plus another 500 support staff throughout the park. So it's probably one of the biggest Halloween events in New England, I would say.
Very cool. So it started with Spooky World. So Spooky World was an outside entity with its own history, and I know the ownership switched hands at one point, and they had a couple different locations. And so for one year, they brought the scares to Canobie Lake, and you guys were kind of inspired and started your own thing.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting because those years, all we had 3 haunted houses in just the dance hall, which is really interesting. I couldn't
Wow.
imagine some at the scale we do now. I couldn't imagine jamming that many haunts in one spot. So when we became ScreeemFest and we went and got our own haunted attractions, we ended up doing 2 in the dance hall and then 1 in the village, which is over by the haunted mine. And then from there, we just add another and another, and 5 is a good number for us based on our size and scope. So we kind of just every 5 years or so change the haunts. It feels like I've changed one every year at this point. But yeah, we just continuously try to change based on what we learned from the year before, and it's been always growing and going well.
Very, very cool. Let's talk a little bit though about the whole concept of something, an amusement park that is meant for family, fun, laughs, joy, kids, all that stuff, that all of a sudden becomes this terrifying place to be. How do you like walk that line? Obviously, it's marketed toward a different group, but just having the name Canobie Lake Park SCREEEMFEST automatically makes people think of those, fun, friendly sort of things. So how do you guys walk that line?
Great question. I would say, especially in my early years of the park, it was always very hard to get past that it's a family park, even for people who you just talk to about it outside of here. They expect that it's, oh, probably pumpkins and corn stalks, but no, we have gore, we have violent scenes, we have all that stuff. So it has been very hard to make people realize SCREEEMFEST is kind of another product on top of our family friendly stuff. But things we've done is we kind of call Sundays during SCREEEMFEST Family Day, because we open earlier in the day. People can roam around the park and ride the rides before the haunts are open. And then at that 5 p.m., the whole park kind of changes over to a more scary event with characters roaming the park. We usually launch it with a monster parade to kind of kick it off, and then an opening ceremony skit, which is really cool. But it felt like a challenge more in the earlier years, but I feel like now people know what to expect when they come to SCREEEMFEST.
Yeah, the brand has been established at this point.
Yeah.
But so before SCREEMFEST existed, was the park closing for the season basically in September? Did SCREEMFEST essentially extend the season?
It did. It did extend the season, and some people weren't so happy about that because now they have to work another month. But I will say everyone here loves SCREEEMFEST now. Like the electricians and the maintenance guys, they get so excited when they get to help with that stuff. I kind of take advantage of that, I would say. But yeah, everyone loves SCREEEMFEST here, and it's really a big team effort now. And
Very cool.
all the moving pieces.
So last year, the 5 mazes were called Cargo, Pinecrest Sanitarium, The Breach, Facility 235, and Arnivis. And we'll talk about some of those, and we got a brand new one for this year that we'll discuss. But let's start with Pinecrest Sanitarium. And I want to talk about this facade, because this is just the entrance to the haunted maze, and it's such a beautiful facade. And I'd love to talk to you a bit about the kind of the creation of this.
Yeah, so one of the big secrets that I think I showed you when you came by the park and we walked around is before the asylum we had the Canobie Lake Hotel, which was kind of a very historically accurate visually from the exterior replication of the Canobie Lake Hotel we had a long time ago. And we didn't want to lose that. So underneath this new beautiful asylum facade is actually still the Canobie Lake Hotel entrance, which is kind of interesting. And you can find little hints of it here and there. But
Yeah, you
we
can see it
wanted,
in the bottom windows. In the bottom windows, you can see like the railing
yeah,
along the bottom is like a porch railing from the facade behind it, correct?
yes, exactly. Because
Yeah.
everything had this, like, I don't know what the style of building is, but it had all these X formation, like stick framed railings. And so all of that you can kind of see through the windows, like you said. And then if you go in, if you walk through the doors and look to your left, you can kind of see the little porch area, which is kind of interesting.
Very cool. And there's obviously been a lot of detail put into this. We got a little behind the scenes here. That's just the sign. If you look, the sign right above the doorway there, the archway, this is it up close and it being worked on. And this, I should add, like these facades, you actually keep up all year round, even during the summer amusement park season. It's kind of used as a billboard these days, right?
Exactly. Pinecrest Sanitarium and Carnivis are both at the old skating rink. And that is Halloween Central. That stays looking like Halloween all year round. And there's even a soundtrack outside that plays for SCREEEMFEST all year round, which eventually you learn to tune it out. But when someone first starts with us, they just hear the same SCREEMFEST announcement, which is really funny. But yeah, the whole thing stays as a giant billboard.
And what is he working on here? This is not metal at all, is it?
No, so this is Steve. Steve is the one who introduced us to each other, and
Mhm.
he did a phenomenal job on this. We worked together to design it, and he actually cut this whole thing out of 3/4 inch plywood with a jigsaw. So very, very impressive. And then the amount of layers of paint here. One of my favorite techniques that we do here a lot is if you paint some rust on a surface and then put liquid latex over it, then do like the black paint, which is what you would see here. You can go back after and peel away the latex, and it gives this awesome layered effect. So that's what you're seeing in the photo on the right there, and he's dry brushing some rust.
Oh
But
wow,
yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah.
And it looks, I mean, it looks exactly like metal. It looks exactly what it's supposed to be. So it's all in the details, folks. I wanted to point this out. This is the fun little Easter egg. So this is a postcard of the real Canobie Lake Hotel that used to be the facade that's under the sanitarium facade. And this is right, I believe, at the entrance to that maze, correct?
It is, yep.
It's a fun little Easter egg. So this one returns this year or no?
Pinecrest returns for sure. That'll probably be with us for a few more years for because I think we just built it in 2022, so it's got a little more time.
Excellent. So if you go inside of this maze, folks, take a look right as you enter. You'll see this little framed photo, and it's a fun little throwback Easter egg, which I love. And here's a bit of the inside. You can see it being worked on, and obviously, there's a ton of work that goes into this. One of the the luxuries that you have is a lot of your mazes get to stay up year round, and you get to kind of just add and enhance them year after year, as opposed to a lot of haunts have to just take it all down and then put it back up, and including like the big ones, like the Halloween Horror Nights of the world and stuff.
Yeah, we used to do that too. The 3 outside haunts we would always take down, and eventually got to a point where we were putting so much time and effort into just rebuilding all the time that it was hard to make big improvements. So I kind of worked with our management to leave some stuff up, and now we just do upkeep, and then we get to keep adding and changing and modifying the space without having to completely rip it down and spend all that time when we could be making more cool stuff.
Very cool. And on the left here, you can see basically a blank slate. They put up the walls, but there's no texture, no detailing or anything like that on them. And on the right, you can see a more finished look. And one of the things we were talking about was I always hate it when I walk through a haunt and there's anything within my reach that I can touch that doesn't feel like what it should. For instance, if
Mm.
there's a knife that I can touch, I don't want it to cut me, but I want it to feel like metal, not plastic. And same goes for walls, right? If you're touching a brick wall, I want it to feel like brick, not plastic, not fiberglass. And I know that that's really important to you as well. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and maybe some of the techniques that you use to give these really cool wall finishes. Like on the right side there, the top part of the wall clearly has some sort of finish on it.
Yeah, the one on the right, that's all plaster on the wall. And we just trowel it on, texture it, and you kind of like press the trowel against it to pull some of it up, and then you swipe it. So that one is that was from the hotel. And one thing we do a lot now is we actually mix sawdust in with the paint. And you can add a ton of sawdust and get a big chunk of it. You can almost make a giant ball out of it and throw it. Or you can do it just very sparingly and have a light texture. You can do things like add sand to paint, add thin set. There's all sorts of things you can do to get different tune textures. But I've found that the sawdust in the paint is great because it adheres very well. It soaks up the paint, and therefore it's not something that'll just flake off. And it also, once you texture a wall, once it dries, you could sand it, so you can remove some texture while keeping it looking very textured. So we do that a lot now, and I think this year we're also going to move into some concrete stuff a little more. Yeah.
Nice. And you're going to use like actual concrete on the walls? You mean like for a brick wall or something, you'll kind of cookie cutter the brick?
Yeah, there's a product called Buddy Rose vertical concrete that I've been researching heavily, and I see a lot of the big guys using it now. So we're gonna delve into that a little bit to kind of redo a tunnel in the asylum so that it does feel as real as possible while staying very structurally sound. Because some textures, if you bang the wall too hard and the wall's not super solid, you can crack it. We had some parts in the hotel where you could crack the plaster off just because it wasn't meant to be bashed in that particular section. But the Buddy Rose vertical concrete seems like a really promising product for what I want to do.
Very cool. Now, right here, you can see the other side. Basically, on the far left there, that's the asylum entrance. Right next
Yep.
to that, what was the name of the clown house again?
Carnivus.
Carnivus. So these two mazes are right next to each other in that same building that you see behind it. And one of the things I want to talk about that I love that you do is, and on a couple of cases, I believe you wait in one line and you do two mazes, because the worst part of any Halloween event is waiting in lines all night. And I love that you guys do this. I'd love to know, like, was that a trial and error sort of thing for you, or how'd that come about?
Yeah, it kind of started up at the two outdoor haunts near Untamed. We just based on space, we had a lot of room for queue, but not a lot of places to get people in multiple spots. So we decided, especially based on because it's really one haunt here and then the next one here. So we thought it made sense to give it a shot, and it worked out really well because at a regular Halloween event, it can like you wait, you do the haunt, you leave. But here, you get on the haunt, you want to go to rides, you want to go to games, get food, and if all your time is sucked up waiting in lines, that can lead to a pretty not not the full value experience you were hoping for. So that was something that we did up top. It really worked out well. So when we built Pinecrest, we actually reset up the inside of that building to accommodate doing one line for two haunts, and feedback has been very positive.
So if you got really scared in the first one, you're basically screwed because you're going into the second one. But so most of the attractions, most of the rides are open, right? During Screamfest?
Yeah, save for water rides. A lot
No
of the
water
water
rides, and
rides, yeah.
probably, and I assume the Super Kitty rides are closed.
We still have some of them open. There are a few that are too close to Halloween, like the Jungle Bounce, that we kind of don't open just because kids don't really come over there because they're afraid of the Halloween stuff. But um, yeah, but overall, a lot of the attractions are still open. It's just water rides that kind of get shut down.
I do find that really young kids are like getting like super brave and really into the Halloween. Like I've seen young kids at Halloween events, at least out here in Southern California. Kind of curious, are you seeing that as well? Are you seeing a pretty young demographic coming?
Yeah, yeah, we see a lot of young kids, and it's fun. You know, it's cool to see people from super young all the way up to very old or very I don't know, just there's the whole gamut of age ranges that come to the park, and it's kind of cool to see everybody enjoying what we put together.
It's awesome. So as we said, that's the facade for Carnivus, and this year we got a brand new maze, Carnivus 2, the
Yes.
sequel. And this was a maze that you designed from start to finish, right? Carnivus, or the original Carnivus was one that you did from start to finish, and this is kind of a sequel to that, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. In 2016, I became the position that I was when we met, which was senior supervisor of ScreamFest Design Development. And my first major project was a new clown house that we called Carnivus. And it's lasted the longest because there's been so many other projects that come up first, but it's finally time to come full circle.
How many
So
years has it been?
I got it. It came up in 2016, so we're going on,
Okay.
yeah, 7, 8
Yeah,
years almost.
yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of cool to come full circle now. Like every single haunt is fresh from when I started the job.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what you can about Carnivus 2? I know, you haven't really released too much info yet, but what can folks expect? And are you basically knocking down the maze that I walked through and starting from scratch, or how's that working?
Yeah, it's already gone. Sorry.
Ow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So that haunt is torn to the ground, and we're working on the new one as we speak. Um, and the general theme, I always wanted to do a sequel haunt where it's actually like a number 2 in the name. So we kind of took advantage of, since we want to keep a clown house, do Carnivus 2. And the whole theme is that you're walking into a movie theater, and the movie showing is Carnivus 2. And when you get in, you actually get transformed into the film, and you're going to experience clowns using phobias to extract fear from people and do something very menacing. So that's the overall story. And yeah, we have a great, huge team this year. specifically for SCREEEMFEST that we all went to the haunted house show in St. Louis. We've been having brainstorming meetings and design meetings. So it's really a big group effort this year for one attraction, which is really cool to see.
It's awesome. I want to talk to you a little bit about story versus what the public wants, because I see this all the time. There are these people that create these haunted houses, and you know, us horror and Halloween fans, we like to dive deep. We want to, you hear it in the theme park world all the time, story is where it all starts. And so these big elaborate stories will be developed. But the reality is 95, 99 maybe percent of people walking through a haunted house are just, they're not even really picking up story elements that much. So yes, you need the story to work the detail to get it to, a place that's good quality. But at the same time, there's like overboard, and it's just like, nope, just make it loud, just jump at me, just scare me. So I'd love to talk a little bit about developing story versus just giving what the public wants, and kind of how you handle that.
Yeah, I will say that's definitely a challenge. I've always been a very story-driven person when it comes to things like this, and the amount of times I see the word lore used just in general life now is pretty crazy. So I know some people love that stuff, but the general populace, they want to get in, get scared, and then go get fried dough. So we use our stories to really drive our decision making when we're building. A lot of it won't be conveyed to most guests, but we do every year try what we can to get some of it in there. So seeing Carnivorous 2 on a movie theater marquee, that's basically what you need to know. Like,
Very cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, Fargo was amazed that I think you kind of went more light on the story. I think the focus here was very much like scares, correct?
Yeah, I had tried so hard for many years to do stories, and we always did, and I was just like, I want a weird haunt. I don't want to have to explain everything. I want to just make some really cool scenes, really gross, nasty, and not have to have them have a climax at the end where the whole story comes to a head. So we kind of just made a giant freight ship that has been taken over by this disgusting parasite, kind of inspired by Lovecraftian novels, Cthulhu, all that stuff. And yeah, we kind of just use that entity to just drive our decisions making in the haunt rather than an actual story. And that was kind of cool to just kind of have fun with it for once.
And one thing that happens as, the years pass and a haunt grows and the brand becomes stronger and everything is people, the public, expect more from you, right? And year one, year two, maybe year three, you can get away with store-bought costumes, store-bought masks, stuff like that. But at some point, people are really kind of expecting and demanding more unique things that they're not going to see at their local fundraiser haunt, let's say. So that means kind of making your own costumes and props and stuff, not 100% necessarily, but definitely some of the more, focused items. And that's what's going on here, right?
Yeah, so this with cargo specifically, we really wanted to do a silhouette change. When you're standing in a hallway and something's backlit, we wanted you to see these weird shapes so you can't quite identify what you see. And our costume designer, Alyssa, that's her on the right there, she did an incredible job with these. She custom carved every single one of those tentacles. And if you want to know what those are, she basically used hangers, like clothes hangers, coiled them up, positioned them, and then we used fire block spray foam to build up a shape and then carve it away. And then for a final skin, we used pantyhose with liquid latex to kind of skin the whole thing and make it one unit.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the products you use to get this stuff done is funny sometimes, but the end result you can't really argue with, But she did an excellent job with this.
And of course, you guys are in New Hampshire, which means you have to deal with weather during the
Yes.
Halloween season, which is extraordinarily unpredictable in New England during that time of year. So you have how many mazes indoors? One, two,
Two.
two indoors?
Yeah.
And then three outdoors. How do you handle that?
Yeah, it's always a challenge for us. There's some folks that like actors will keep going, but sometimes we have electronics in the haunt, so we kind of have to do a hold. So sometimes we'll do that, just kind of brief pause, hope that the weather lets up, and let people keep going because we want to make sure everyone gets the full value of all 5 haunts. And most guests understand, like, we can't control the weather, so we do what we can to keep the haunts open as much as possible.
Yeah. Now, of course, there's the building the stuff completely from scratch, like we're seeing here. Like this was 100% man or woman made. But sometimes you get inspiration from places. I loved this detail when we were walking through because I don't know, folks looking at this kind of wall pattern, and what are they supposed to be, like doorways or sort of thing, or
Yeah, they're little engine
hatches?
block access hatches. Yeah,
And in reality, they are simply,
those are tote lids, husky tote lids.
so yeah, basically like a big plastic bin. That's the lid taken off, screwed on the wall, and painted the same color as the wall, which I honestly I think is a stroke of genius. Like, did you think who thought of that?
Well, in the Star Wars world of stuff, like, there's a lot of people that
Mhm.
make custom props, and they call things greebles or greeblies, which is just any details you can rip and glue to something. It doesn't have to have a reason or a purpose. For us, we're not gluing things that big; we're gluing things this big. So I just kind of thought of that on a larger scale, and I was like, "Oh, these tote lids look really high tech." And you can actually see in the middle in this photo, it's actually just a little piece of wood with the corners beveled to hide the Husky logo that's underneath. um,
So funny.
yeah, like it, and no one's gonna question what it is because it just looks like a cool detail, you know.
Yeah, and obviously, this was taken during the daytime, of course, but it'll be lit at night. It's not a main focus. I thought that this was a very, very, very smart way of adding detail to a set without, having to spend many, many hours doing it, not having to spend a ton of money. Very, very, very smart. So I love it. But speaking of big centerpiece items that you need, sometimes you need some crazy items to come into your haunts. We got a helicopter here on the left, and on the right, a big like army truck. And those aren't the easiest things to find when you're shopping for to dress your haunted house. How do you find items like this?
Yeah, there is no Amazon Prime for helicopters, unfortunately. So we actually found that helicopter fuselage on eBay, and you buy it, and then you kind of have to figure out how to get it here. I think it came from Tennessee or something like that. So you'd be surprised. You just call a transportation company in that area and say, "Hey, we got this item. Can you do it?" And they'll usually say yes. So that's what that was. That guy came all the way up with a helicopter fuselage for us. But on the right, the army truck, that was simply just a towing company. I forget what towing company, I think, but as long as it fits on their bed and they can safely strap it, they'll bring you anything.
And where'd you get that one from? Where'd you buy it from?
The military truck was a Facebook Marketplace find.
So Facebook Marketplace, the same place you're shopping for your used bookshelves. Canopy Lake Park SCREEEMFEST is buying helicopters and army trucks. I love it.
And boats.
And boats and stuff like this, random freights that, you don't want to build these, right? That would be an insane amount of labor. It would be less authentic. But at the same time, like you said, you don't go on Amazon and buy these. So once again, I know there's a story behind these crates.
Yeah, so same thing. We found a pile of crates on, I think it was Facebook. Yeah, it was Facebook Marketplace again. And we were trying to figure out how to get them here. And so we called the guy. And luckily, um, working for who I work for, you say Canobie Lake Park around here, and people are like, "Oh, yeah, I can totally do that." So we had this guy that was really excited to help us. He had a friend with a truck that could bring us these crates, and he did. And then he was like, "Do you guys need anything else?" So that got me to thinking, like, maybe I can have this guy scout for things for me. And I was like, we need like 100 buoys. And he's like, I think I can do that. So I think a week later, he called me. He's like, "Hey, I got all those buoys." He like sends me a picture of them, and I was like, "Wow, okay, let's get him here." So he brought them, and I found out later that he actually had some like friends of his that lived on an island off the coast of Massachusetts or something, and they just went to the beach and gathered up all the old buoys that have been sitting there for years, and now you can see them in cargo.
That's
Pretty
actually
interesting.
disturbing that there were just buoys laying on the
Yeah.
ocean shore. Yikes. Well, yeah, so you got to go shopping in weird places. Luckily, the internet makes that easier than ever, but uh, not always simple necessarily. We're gonna rewind time. This is a retired maze that I know you're really fond of. This was called The Village, and it had a very witchy theme to it. Love to hear some stories about this one.
Yeah, so the village was here forever. Like that was a 2009, and that was the maze that we always had to set up. We would actually set this up the week before Screamfest opened because it took up so much real estate that we couldn't do it beforehand. Um, and that was just tirelessly tying corn to fence. That I will say I'm glad it's gone for that reason, because you'll see a theme. I try to save time doing the repetitive stuff so we can do more of the cool stuff. Yeah, that one's been around forever. It finally retired, I think, 2 years ago, and it kind of never had an identity. It started off as like a witchy thing, then it was just like angry townspeople, and then it was just gory. So for the last 2 or 3 years, I worked to really turn it into a very witch themed haunt. Um, but the point being like not witches like with the big green noses and stuff, but more um, women who were wrongfully accused of things and things happened. So I thought that was much scarier than kind of just angry townsfolk, gory. So we kind of went that direction. So we made, I think it was 20 of these witches that we would hang from the trees. And then we made them all look identical. We got burlap sacks over their heads, blonde wigs, and we were very attentive to how we pointed their toes down, how we bound their hands behind their back, because posing with bodies is can really make or break the scene. So just pointing the toes down does a huge amount to make it look real versus just flat feet sticking out. And then on the left here, that was just a really cool thing we did where I had the sign company we work with, Alpha Graphics in Nashua. We made a silhouette of a farmer holding the shovel. We sent it to him and he cut the whole thing out of metal. And then this is in the daytime and the sun was just right, but at night behind the sheets we would backlight it so it looked like a guy standing there behind the sheets. And actually to the left of this photo is where the actor would come out and get you. So that was a really cool, simple way to distract people that I'm probably gonna do more of that, honestly. Just silhouettes projected and things like that.
Speaking of actors, how many actors are performing in during Screamfest?
So we have roughly 30 per haunt that goes up and down throughout the season. But that's what we try to maintain. So um, plus all the
So
other support.
150,
Yeah.
in the mazes alone. And then you have
Yes.
some kind of streetmosphere people, right?
Yeah. Then we have probably around 20 walk around characters that roam the park. So yeah, I guess 170 roughly is what we aim for and are always trying to keep. Like we're hiring all throughout the season. So if you want to scare people, we have a
There you go.
position for you.
Very cool. Folks, I do want to remind you, if you have any questions for Mike, make sure you put them in the Q&A, not the chat, and I will get to the Q&A toward the end of the live stream. But let's move on. You gotta have fun when you're doing this crazy stuff. And in this photo, we can see a fun little tradition y'all have, if you want to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so every year with our team, we do a huge award ceremony where a bunch of the actors who've been working really hard and doing a really stellar job, we will actually award them trophies for their great work. And I was like, our build crew does great work, so maybe we should get a trophy. So we've been the longest running award winners for Screamfest build crew, and what we do with them now, because it's mostly a joke, is we actually hide the trophies we get every year in the haunt. So if you go through any of these haunts, keep an eye out. You might be able to find one.
I think this is in the asylum. Am I right? This
It
one here.
is. That's one of
So if
two
you,
that are in the asylum.
okay, so in the top left, they're on top of the books. Which, by the way, I just realized the books are upside down. Those two below it. Funny.
Whoops.
So I love that you guys are having fun though, doing fun stuff like that. And I know this is one of your favorite parts. There's no audio to this, so you can talk over it.
Yeah, so this is our monster parade. It starts at 5:45 near the Autobahn every Saturday, I believe it is only right now.
Who's
And
that? Who's that?
that's me right there in that clown car. And that has to be my favorite thing to do. Not only is it fun being a part of that, but it's also 15 minutes where even if I get called, I cannot respond. I get 15 minutes to just enjoy Screamfest. So I really, really love that.
Very cool. And this is kind of like an opening ceremony moment.
Yes, we always do an opening ceremony to kick off the haunts opening. And we open the two indoor haunts first, and then when it gets dark, we open the outer ones. So this kicks off the two indoor haunts opening.
And these are the actors that will go into those haunts, I assume. Yeah.
No, so these are mostly our walk around characters. We
Oh, wow.
do,
Okay.
yes. So that's our walk around team. And we also, there are some actual haunt actors sprinkled in here because some of them, like for cargo, they don't have a haunt to be in yet. So they just kind of participate in this. So we kind of populate this to make it a really epic performance.
And for
Well,
most nights of Screamfest, people are coming just for Screamfest, right? Like there's no daytime hours. It just opens for the activity at night.
yeah, really just Sundays we open around 1, I believe it is. So
You said for the
families can
family
come
thing.
during the day. And then Saturdays, I think it's around 3, so you get a little bit of time, but it's mostly Friday, Saturday. Screamfest is the attraction.
Cool. And I know you've worked kind of puzzles and like mini escape room type of things into the event. This is you. Are you shooting a video for one? Is that what's happening here?
Yeah, so I got into doing the puzzle rooms when we first launched them. I think 2017 that was, and that was kind of launched a new passion of mine. And in this one here, I was actually an actor in one of the videos in the escape room. Sorry, puzzle room we call them. And that's not something I usually do, so it's kind of, this is like a relic. It probably will never happen again.
So where are these puzzle rooms placed? Are they themed to the haunts at all? Or are they their own little separate thing? Is it an upcharge? Like how do these work? I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, so the two we first originally did, they were in the Wooden Nickel, which is right next to Chicken Coop Haunted Mine area. And that only lasted a year, I believe, before we moved out and took over the old, I think it's where the sluice was. Forget what the building was specifically, but we kind of took over a whole building and built 4 puzzle rooms just in that building. So we now have a puzzle room building, which is kind of cool. And there's 4 in there that the themes kind of change out every couple years or so. And it is an upcharge. I'd have to, I think there's different times. So some are like 15 minutes, some are 10 minutes. We've had some that are 5 minutes over time. But they are fun and people love them.
Is there like a prize if you solve the puzzle?
Yeah, you get a sticker.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
love the stickers.
I know you also have a graphics design background, and is that kind of how you started with Canobie in that realm, or is that brought in later
No, I started at Canobie as a clown.
as a
That's,
clown
yeah.
haunting
Um,
people? Cool.
I can get into that and then into the graphic design if you want.
Sure, let's hear it.
Yeah, so I started as a clown just because I thought it'd be kind of fun to be in a haunted house. And I never realized at that time, that was in 2011. I never realized that this was really something you could do. So I fell in love immediately. And the next year, I was like, hey, can I get on the build crew? And they're like, yeah, we'll pass along. I was like, no, really. I would really like to get on the build crew. I'm very passionate. I'm an artist. Here's my stuff. And that worked. And so my first project on the build crew was a giant clown painting on like an old, I think it was like a roulette wheel. And I don't know if I showed you that in the haunt, but it's still in there. And I will probably put it back in Carnivorous 2 as a little nostalgia element. But So I became year-round actually for SCREEEMFEST in 2016, part-time year-round. So I was just doing like 30 hours a week in the winter, but I was working on Carnivorous that year. Sorry, 2015 winter is when I started. But then I caught wind that they were looking for a graphic designer to be on staff. And I had been using Photoshop for like my whole young life and doing 3D and all stuff like that. So I said, hey, let me give it a shot. And I am now the parks graphic designer, and it's been a long what, 5 years now. So it's really cool to be able to have control over how SCREEEMFEST is presented too, not only just the haunts, but also visually in our advertising, billboards, map, in-park signage. I get to do the whole thing. So that's really cool.
And this is for like regular park operations as well? Or are you designing the park maps and stuff?
Yep, I do the park map. I do all of our food menus. I do our summer billboards, coupon partner, print needs. Yeah, I am the parks graphic designer and do all that stuff.
That's very cool.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, as you know, people are learning, you are spending and the whole year planning for this stuff, developing, building, all of that stuff. But 2020, that horrible year of 2020 when COVID shut everything down, Canobie Lake Park SCREEEMFEST did not happen, correct?
Correct. That was the first year that it did not happen for whatever
But
reason.
you took full advantage and you went on some research trips, right?
Yes, it was very, very bittersweet because I now got to, on a Saturday, go to the haunts that were open and see what other guests are seeing in full-fledged operation. And that was really, really cool. I wish I could do it again, and I probably could if I wanted to, like take a Saturday off to go do some scouting. But that's something that doesn't come around very often, so I took advantage and we really checked out a lot of haunts in the area. We went pretty far too. We really
Yeah,
drove.
there were like the select number. Some of the haunts that were like fully outdoor or something like that, they they would be open. So you took advantage, which was nice. Tell me a little bit about the upkeep of the haunts and the mazes like throughout the season. So the season opens, obviously these people are running into walls, people are running away from things, stuff gets damaged. So how important, well, it's very important, obviously, but like how do you handle the whole keeping things not only like looking good, but just safe when something like that happens?
So each of our haunt supervisors and leads, they have a binder that has work orders in it. And all night they're filling work orders out so that me and my team can the next day go in and repair stuff. If it's something that needs immediate attention, similar to a weather event, we'll just put a brief hold on the haunt and we will go in and fix it. If it's not something major, I've actually put on a cloak and gone in and fixed while the haunt's running, which is really funny. Um, so yeah, we take care of things very promptly, but anything that needs further attention or a new solution entirely, we have work orders that we take care of every morning after the event.
Perfect. Well, folks, I'm going to hop into the Q&A. So if you have any Q&A questions, make sure that you pop it right in the Q&A section. Let's see. Oh, good question. How many, Ellen wants to know, how many people can the maze handle at a time? So as far as guests are concerned, how many people are going through?
So we build and design everything for throughput because of the attendance, and we kind of have use the number 1,100 people an hour is kind of what we aim to be able to handle.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and that's probably on like the busiest, craziest nights, but it's just we designed for that so that we don't have the haunt getting backed up during operation because that can be a real mess.
Yeah, so, and like, what's the standard wait for a Screamfest haunt on a Saturday night during Halloween season?
The wait will never exceed 30 minutes. That's our goal. So we kind of use our haunt greeters as a valve to kind of open and close and speed things up to make sure that everyone can get through the haunt and then enjoy the rest of the event.
Very cool. Eric just wants to say, hey, the scenery in Cargo is amazing. So there you go.
Thank you. I'll
And
pass it
let's
to
see.
the team.
Riley wants to know, did people used to live in the hotel? If so, what's the history? What's the history of the hotel? Do you know?
Yeah, I know some of the basics. So it was a hotel kind of across the lake, and there was a lover's walk that went through the woods to that area. And as far as I know, it was just a regular hotel. I don't know that people lived there versus just stayed there. But there was actually a fire that is the reason it doesn't exist anymore. So that's the basics of what I know and what we kind of used to drive the story in the hotel when we built it. Like we had at first we were gonna do like a lot of the set chart and stuff, but um, black in dark light doesn't come across very easily, so we kind of just made it pretty.
So yeah, Canopy Lake Park in general has a really interesting history because it was at first a train park, and then at some point it became like an amusement park. So I'm sure there's videos on YouTube highlighting the history of Canopy Lake Park. So highly recommend looking into it. Let's see. Next question. Are there going to be any 3D graphics in Carnivis 2? Says Eric.
No.
No. Have there been 3D mazes in the past? I feel like that was a fad for a long time at haunts. Like everything was 3D. Were there any ever at Screamfest?
No, we've never done a 3D thing. We've talked about it, but just from visiting haunts all over the place, a lot have 3D haunts. So I try to do something just a little bit different from what's in the area.
What is like the closest other haunt to you at like a similar scale?
I'd say that Nightmare New England is probably the closest. And they're not an amusement park. They're just a well, they're Mel's Fun Park plus Spooky World, Nightmare New England.
And they're not
Um,
even that close, are they? They're about an hour away or something.
no, I'd say they're about 20 minutes away.
Oh, they're that close to you guys?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Scarlett, I don't know what this means, but Scarlett would like to know if there are any spooky cats. Do you know what that means?
I know what cats are. Yes, I love cats. Um,
I know what cats are as well. No, is this like an inside joke that I'm missing?
no, I don't know.
Okay.
But
Well, are there any spooky cats?
I can add a spooky cat for you. I'll get it
Okay.
done.
I want a spooky cat as a walk around character all night long. We
Gotcha.
need to.
We have had actually a character called Tigress.
Okay, here's some explanation. Michelle must be a guardian of the one who asked the question. She's 8 and she loves cats. So
Gotcha, gotcha.
thanks for tuning in. I love that an 8-year-old is watching this and hopefully enjoying it. Thank you for the question. Where do you pack all props during the off season and winter months? Elgin would like to know.
So some things we will disassemble and bring into the rink because we use that for haunted house storage as well. We also have freight containers in our back of house area that we store stuff in. And some other things, since our haunts stay up, we will actually wrap them up and kind of shrink wrap them in place and just open them up when we get closer and do any touch-ups that are needed, things like that.
Can we say what some of the mazes are used for during the off season? Speaking of storage.
Yeah, we have Canopy gifts on site, and they often use our haunted houses as their retail warehouse.
It is pretty funny. We're walking through and, being shown around during the off season, and there's boxes of t-shirts and bubble guns and all this fun stuff like among dead bodies. It's quite fun. So Eric Leland says, "See you in the fall, Mike." So
Hey, Eric.
keep your eye out for Eric.
Eric's a
Very
walk
cool.
around character at the park.
Oh, very cool. So, Mike, tell me, what would what do you hope for the future of Canobie Lake Screamfest? How do you hope that it grows, or maybe you don't want it to grow, but get more detailed or something? What is your hope for the future of Screamfest?
I would say that I would love to be able to sustain a sixth haunt someday. I have themes in mind I've always wanted to do that are a little more experimental, I would say. And I wouldn't probably replace one of our staple 5 with it, but if we could add a 6, that would be really cool. It's just difficult between staffing, time, all that stuff to try to fill another haunted house. But that would be really awesome to see. And then from there, just adding a lot more scenery to the park. Like every year, we kind of shop around to see what we can get for more park scenes. Um, if you like dinosaurs, you might be pretty happy this year.
We get dinosaurs coming.
Oh
Very
yeah,
cool.
yep. So yeah, just kind of taking the product we have and keep making it better. Being able to keep them up and keep adding details really something that I want to take advantage of. And kind of the timing of haunts has been difficult because every year we end up having to replace one, and that takes most of the time. So I think actually next year we may have time to just do like a spruce everything up, change some scenes, rather than just like a um, ground up build again.
Very cool. Jessica wants to know, how would someone get involved in putting together the haunted houses? So if they want to get on that build crew, it sounds like you did, and you said, no, seriously. Mike, take Jessica seriously. How would she get involved?
I would reach out to, I would email a park, kind of send a portfolio. A portfolio will always set you higher up on the list than someone that doesn't send one. And that can include anything like illustrations, paintings. If you've actually built haunts, some photos of stuff you did, that all counts. Like Steve, who did the Pinecrest sign, he walked in with a humongous portfolio, so that was kind of a no-brainer. I will say build crew is usually limited, but if you want to just get involved in any way, later in the season when we start doing like changing the whole park over, we actually have a setup crew where we bring in anyone who has applied to be an actor, like they're welcome to come in as long as this position's available. But that's how you'd probably get in the fastest, just be on our setup crew.
Very cool. And when you send that email, write attention Mike Perron. That might help a little bit. Just a
Well,
little tip for you there. So Riley wants to know, is Carnival 2 going to start in a movie theater?
yes. Yes, it will.
There you go. Perfect. And has there ever been thought or discussion on your part as far as taking one of the existing amusement park rides and putting some sort of like Halloween horror overlay to it?
I would like to see stuff like that. However, with our workload, it's hard for me to take the charge on that, because we have like a rides department, like everything's kind of compartmentalized. So it's definitely something that I could work on and bring up and try to get something going. But this is probably the fourth time I've heard someone ask me about that, so I think it might be time to talk about it for sure.
Very cool. And um, I'm just gonna say Psychodrome. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's the second time
Psychodrome.
I've heard Psychodrome.
Yeah,
So
Psychodrome would be a, well, I think the first might have been for me as well, though. Psychodrome would be a good um overlay for Halloween, I think. But speaking of, folks, if you're a horror fan and you're going to Canobie Lake Park this summer by chance, they have the Mine of the Lost Souls year round, which is one of the most delightful, theme park haunt or dark rides that there are. It's so, I assume it's open during SCREEEMFEST as well. And it's just such a traditional, fun, dark ride. Highly recommend. I could do a whole conversation about that separately, but yeah.
well, well, you can thank me then because when we had the village haunt, we did not open the haunted mine during Screamfest, which
Oh
seems like
gosh.
blasphemy. Like that one haunted attraction you have closes down for Screamfest. But we've since eliminated the village, put a new haunt further back, so now it is open. You can
Very
enjoy it.
cool. Definitely check it out. Whether you're there this summer or for SCREEMFEST, go into the Mine of the Lost Souls. It was my favorite ride as a kid, and like still is. So, Meenum wants to know, what is your favorite scary story?
Ooh,
Do you have a favorite scary story?
are we talking like ghosts and goblins, or are we talking Halloween, like Screamfest?
Anything, whatever you want it to be.
I would say that I'm pretty hard to scare, So like when I walk through a haunt, I'm usually looking at the set and the details, or in our haunts, I'm looking for problems or lighting changes. So when an actor,
I misunderstood the question.
oh, okay.
She wants to know favorite scare story for a visitor. So I guess something that maybe one of your one of your actors scared the crap out of somebody or something like that. Do you have any one of those favorite kind of stories?
There's been a few times over the year, I don't have specific ones, but where someone actually gets scared into using the potty right then and there. So
Yeah.
that does happen, and I've seen it happen, and it is hilarious and disgusting, and we have to clean it up. But it is always a great story for that night to tell.
There you go. Well, I'll end it with this. Scarlett, who was asking about the cat earlier, thinks that you should add Catnap. It's a horror video game. So, Mike,
Okay.
get on your research, look into Catnap, and maybe in a future year, because of Scarlett, there will be a Catnap haunt at Canobie Lake Park SCREEEMFEST. And with that, I'll just leave it. Mike, any last minute words you want to add?
No, I just want to thank you for having us and thank my team for making us look good. I couldn't do any of this without them. Between Alyssa, my costumer, Justin, my makeup artist and set designer, and Steve, and just all the people that make SCREEEMFEST come together. It's cool to be able to represent it, but I'm nothing without them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike. This was awesome.
Thank you.
So funny. Thank you for answering my question too, because I always think that's going to happen, but nobody ever talks about it.
Oh, it happens
It
at every
happens.
haunt. Every haunt. Yes.
Okay, good to know.
That's why you got to keep your distance from people. You never know what's going to happen.
Where the depends. Gotcha. Well, thank you. This has been fascinating. And because, like I said, Canobie Lake is right in our backyard, everybody in Massachusetts and New Hampshire should be heading there this fall. When do you open?
September 21st.
Okay, great. That's when we'll be heading over there. And I just wanted to say thanks to you guys and to everybody who's been here with your awesome questions, but also to let you know that our next haunted experiences with Jeff is about Knott's Scary Farm with show writer Jeff Tucker. I put it in the chat and I'll send it out later too, but I just want to give you a heads up that it's going to be really also spooky.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they all have been. It's pretty amazing what's going on in this world. So anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful night and spooky stories to tell for the next month. And I will hopefully see you at Canobie Lake Park SCREEEMFEST after September 21st. So have
Bye.
have a good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.